Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mangg. Welcome back to Hanging with Mangg. I don't think I have to say what game I'm playing. You know, as usual, just like, yeah, this week, I've really been on just a non-stop solo RPG kick. For whatever reason, it's just grabbing me these days. This whole month and stuff. It's just been it. So I haven't really been playing too many games otherwise. Because it's like, why play a video game RPG when I can play a tabletop RPG? Just lets you do anything. So, yeah, that's that. This week on this channel, we had Dawn of War 2 and more gold box stuff. I think that's all going to continue this week, but we're getting pretty close to being done with gold box. Pretty darn close. So obviously I have many solo RPG videos that I can upload. And probably will upload. I don't really have an insane amount of backlog other than solo RPG videos, so we'll see. But I do want to start recording some other stuff here and there. And we've got Monster Hunter coming out sometime this month. So that'll be all good. On Two Brothers Play, last night we did do a little something different with Archipelago. Not really randomized or anything, just something different. With RimWorld and Cataclysm Dark Days Ahead. And it was pretty interesting, but we ultimately decided that it just would be a very slow, kind of time-consuming thing. And for Archipelago, you know, we like kind of more rapid stuff happening, especially with randomization. So, yeah, I don't think we'll be doing that specific experiment again, but I wouldn't mind maybe doing Cataclysm with that setup, where it generates just a lot of random challenges to complete. Pretty time consuming, but it would be another interesting run, I think, to do. So that was that. And yeah, over on the Exploring series, my hiatus is finally coming to an end. Sad to say. It's been good. Gotten plenty of solo RPGs in. But it's coming to an end. And so tomorrow will be the last of my hiatus videos. It's gonna be the Fratricide tale broken up into, well, it's one video for 2 parts, which will be a okay enough lead-in to the Bone Proposal starting next week. Gonna be lengthy stuff, so hopefully people are interested in watching all that. Yeah, not really much else to talk about for that. Because I haven't started it yet. So, yeah, that's not Not much going on the channels these days. Just hiatus stuff. It's been good though. Been enjoying it. Nice break every year. But it's about time to get back to business. Fuck. And yeah, I guess all I really have to talk about after that is just RPGs. So we covered all our proper business in like 5 minutes. That's what hanging with Mangg has come to. Yeah, I mean, I just like, okay, well, all right. There is, you know, I really do for Let's Play, I do want to get something modern. I want to get some kind of big new game coming out that's not Monster Hunter. I mean, that is going to happen, but the other one that I saw that I just learned about, like, this week, is called Clair Obscure. I think it's a French game. It's certainly got a French title. I think I knew about this beforehand, because I think I saw a trailer at some point. Because it's got, like, Charlie Cox doing a voice, like, the lead voice and stuff. And it looks like a Final Fantasy. Like, it looks like Final Fantasy 17, but it's actually turn-based. And it looks pretty phenomenal. So, that one might actually be a full Let's Play. It's just funny how far I've, like, drifted away from big new releases. Like, 10 years ago, I would have been doing, like the new Indiana Jones game. I would have done that in a heartbeat, you know? And now it's like, I didn't even play it. I was going to play it through Game Pass, but then it crashed every minute, and I was like, well, I guess fuck that. And then I just never looked back to see if they updated it so it didn't crash constantly. But yeah, there's just games that come out now and I just don't even notice or care or anything. And instead I play games from 1991. Like, the latest game I just bought was, Gene Forge 1. Which I guess is a remake of a game from, I don't know, 2001 or something like that. Made by a small company? I don't really know the history of it, but I guess this is a remake. And it's just like kind of an indie CRPG that very few have ever heard. I never heard of before. It's like, yeah, this is what interests me now. So, yeah, you know. But Clair Obscure looks like it could be good. Civ 7 is coming out in, like, 2 days. I will probably get that, because Civ seems like something that I should be into. Like, all signs point to that being something that I should be really interested in. Except, I think the big problem with Civ is that it's not fantasy. But then I did try Age of Wonders, like, 4, and I didn't really get into that at all. So maybe it's just something, some sort of disconnect with the genre. I don't know, but assuming reviews are glowing, which I would imagine they're going to be, probably pick that up, but I don't know how much really video content I'd get out of that. Yeah, so that's I don't know. And then it's like the thing that I was pondering starting was a series playthrough of the Wizardry series. Just another like old ass, you know, computer RPG series. That's what's on the top of my mind. So it's like I know I'll probably enjoy that. Yeah, I guess. Anyways, speaking of RPGs, had another session with my family last night, continuing the Red Hand of Doom campaign. And they started, I was situated outside of Vrath Keep, which is sort of this first stronghold that they come across that is supposedly being controlled by the Hobgoblin army. So they, you know, they pretty much know that there's going to be hobgoblins and stuff in there. And so they start, you know, they start out pretty cautious, and they're they circle around the whole keep to check out the entrances and the walls and blah blah blah. They're discussing their approach. And my sister had arrived in a bad mood and just like continued to be more and more frustrated with the whole game and everything happening. And eventually she's just like, let's just walk in. I'd rather die than just sit here and talk more. And it's like, oh my god. They were talking for like 4 minutes. That was too much. But then they go in, and they go into the courtyard and stuff, and there's nothing there. And they go into, like, the first little building, and they find a manticore sitting in there. It's quite frightening. And none of them know what a manticore is, except for Lego, who, you know, as I described the creature, he immediately is like, oh, shit, it's a manticore. And manticores, in, you know, like D&D and stuff, are pretty much just pure evil creatures. They're, like, intelligent, but they're just predominantly evil, and, yeah, not very nice, obviously. But my sister immediately sees a creature, you know, instead of, like, a man. It's a creature, and she's like, she starts, like, sweet-talking, like, oh, no, did they trap you here? You should join us. And it's like, the module says that the manticore assumes that they're just part of, like, the Hobgoblin army, and they're, like, lost or something, and they wandered in here. And so he's supposed to just kind of tell them, and, you know, he's supposed to speak and just be like, oh, you know, go see the leader, blah, blah, blah. But I just kind of let her talk, and she talked in a way that no one in this army would ever talk to any other member. It's just so ridiculously, like, oh, poor thing, it's like, and so he's just like, okay, these are not part of the army. Like, it's just no attempt at guile or reading the room or anything, just assuming that it's trapped in here, even though there is a giant hole in the roof. So it immediately, like, leaps out of the hole in the roof and starts calling for, you know, because there's intruders here now and blah, blah, blah. And then my sister got immediately even more frustrated because she's like, oh, why couldn't you just make it nice? You know, why couldn't we just, you know, take it into our team and, you know, tame it, and why couldn't it just be nice? Why does everything have to be combat? And it's like, okay, first of all, I'm running a module. Okay, so that's one. Second of all, it's a manticore. They're just evil by genetics. third of all, you know, you said, I don't want to talk anymore. I'd rather die than just talk anymore. So you just wandered in. That usually indicates you just want to fight stuff. And fourth, I mean, you picked the character class of fighter. And, you know, when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail sort of thing. And it's like, what do you want from me? Like, basically, in her mind, just, like, anything that's not, like, an evil, monstrous goblin or... no, even really anything. Anything she encounters, she just wants to be able to talk nicely to, and it'll be like, oh, fair maiden, thank you for speaking so sweetly to me. You are nice, and I will now join you and fight all the evil things that that must die because they will not join you. But everything will join you because you talk so nicely. I would say, by and large, my sister is the biggest issue with the family D&D game, because she is by far the most particular in what she wants out of the game. And as far as I can tell, what she wants out of the game is basically like some form of a fairy tale. Like, basically, she just wants me to tell a story with a lot of fantastical and whimsical elements. She doesn't really ever want to fight anything, but she also doesn't really want to have any initiative of her own that's not just talking nicely to things and taming animals for, you know, to do, like... She basically wants to play out a film without much of her own creativity on the matter. So she wants me to just create these elaborate scenarios that are pretty much out of, like, a picturesque 90s, you know, family adventure movie. And she would by far prefer that, you know, she has just this whole band of, like, fantastical creatures that have joined her side because, you know, she's the main character. And the villains are just, like, cartoonishly villainous, like, hobgoblin monstrosities, you know, of just, like, we eat babies, and we are evil, and we must be destroyed because we are evil. And then basically just skip the combat portion, and she just wants me to, like, describe how her team of tamed animals and stuff triumphed over villainy. That seems to be my impression of the overall situation. And no matter how many times I say that this is not what D&D is, this is not my job, this is not how it works, doesn't really matter. So yeah, I mean, I said, like, okay, I mean, this, it's not gonna be good. It's not gonna be good going forward in this campaign for you, because it's about you guys, like, stopping a whole army of hobgoblins, you know, and they have various creatures on their side, and it's gonna be a lot of combat because this is a D&D campaign. So, yeah. But anyways, they did the fight. They did the combat against all of Brath Keep. And I pretty much, you know, I'm doing conversions for enemies over to Shadow the Weird Wizard. You know, general kind of best guess stuff, but I'm trying to keep the numbers of enemies the same. So if they're supposed to fight, you know, a Manticore and 2 Goblin Wolf Riders and 4 Hobgoblin Veterans, like, I'm trying to keep all those numbers exactly as it is and just sort of seeing how it goes. And it was, I mean, it was pretty tough. I had the leader and the Minotaur join the fight, you know, partway into the main battle here, and they were doing okay. They, you know, they struggle with complicated tactics and thinking creatively in battle to maximize the group's potential. The only one with really any tactical mind is Lego, and you know, he's not gonna just tell everyone exactly what to do. Although he does do that a good amount. So, you know, it was going okay, I guess. Although my mom like failed like 4 attacks in a row, you know, and just with her bow, she just couldn't land a hit. She was rolling 1s and 2s and shit, and it's just like, yeah, there's nothing you can do about that. That's how it goes. But it's just, yeah, it's funny because like they did this fight, you know. And my sister complains, like, you know, everything's a fight and everything's a combat. But then at the end of the session, they went over to the gorge where the giant bridge is, and they basically were kind of indicated that they need to destroy the bridge in order to delay the enemy army, because they'll have to go all the way around if the bridge is destroyed. And so they get to the bridge and they're like, how the hell are we gonna do this? Is impossible, we can never do this. And it's like, okay, well, okay. No creative thinking, and they don't want combat either. So I don't know. As always, just lots of failures. But we'll see. So anyways, they were doing the fight and things were not going too well, and my sister was getting, you know, more and more frustrated as the fight went on. Just because the fight was still going on. And then eventually she decides to pull out her this hand mirror that she got in one of the previous little adventures. And I don't think I even, yeah, I didn't come up with stats or anything for it. I just said that it was like it could unleash this incredibly damaging beam of light. Like once. So she just busts that out, and she's just like, yeah, I go around and I shine the beam of light at every enemy and they all die. They do that often. She's not the only one, but many of them do that. Where they basically just say how they do something incredibly unrealistic or incredibly just like ridiculous, and they're just like, that this happened, I do this and this all happens. It's like, no, that's not how this works. In this case, though, it's like, okay, yeah, I mean, this is a one-time use, and I was very vague about it, and I was like, okay, that's fine. But she is wielding this beam of light incredibly indiscriminately. So I had all the rest of the group roll an agility check with a Bane, and every single person failed. So they all went down. But Shadow the Weird Wizard is very generous. Fuck. So, they lost a little bit of health, you know, like max health. And then they got back up, and the fight was over, and they killed the big bad villain and everything. Of this keep, at least. They won the day. I mean, the fight was... I mean, it wasn't quite over. It definitely would have gone on for a little while, but it was a one-time use. And was it the wisest use of that thing that's, like, incredibly powerful and probably could have decimated a good chunk of the entire army that, you know, they're trying to face? I don't know, but she used it, and it's done, and that was it. So that was that. And then they looted the place, and they found the treasure vault in the bottom and got all the treasures. So multiple magic items were gotten, and they were all very pleased. And then I leveled them up to level 3. Level 3 in Weird Wizard is when you get your expert path. And, yeah, this, that started a process. There are 40 expert paths in Shadow the Weird Wizard. And any character can pick any one of them. There's no requirements, prerequisites, nothing. Anyone can pick any of the 40. So I asked my mom earlier in the week of like, okay, I explained the situation to her, and I was like, what should I do? With these expert paths, should I just like pick one for everybody because most people don't really care that much? Or should I pick like 2 or 3 for everybody and let them choose from those? Or should I pick, or should I just show the whole list of 40 with like a brief description of each and then let them just choose from the 40? She leaned towards letting everybody choose from the whole list, so that's what we did, and it took some time, and there was a lot of rules questions that occurred, and I just kept thinking about how an easier system, a simpler system, would just be a lot nicer in moments like these, and it's only going to get more complicated as we go. Because as the players increase in power, so do the enemies, and they become much more dangerous if the party isn't, you know, using all their abilities and stuff to full potential. So, yeah, we'll see. I'm not gonna level them up too much more, because the Red-Handed Doom isn't really meant to cap out at like max level. And a Weird Wizard character is like twice as powerful, so technically they're like level 6 D&D 3.5 characters at this point, assuming they all know what they're doing. So then they continued on after that. They slept for the day and continued on the next morning, heading towards Skull Gorge. And along the way, they saw this trail going off to the side. And they were pondering whether to investigate. And my sister has a horse. She bought a horse, of course. Of course. And she said that, well, she could just go, you know, check out the path to her on her own and then come back. And Lego was quite against this plan. He was quite adamant that she was just going to die. She was going to get ambushed and slaughtered, and that would be the end of her character. And he really tried to talk her out of it. And she grew frustrated again. And, because one of the first things I told them when they started playing D&D was that you really don't ever want to split the party. And I could tell at that moment that I didn't explain myself properly. Because ever since I told them that, they basically do everything as one group. And even more so, really, they don't even have different characters, in a way. Like, really, they operate as one character, as a big blob, and they all discuss the one character's decision, you know? In combat, yes, they all act independently, but outside of combat, they're just like, what should we do? Should we go here? Should we do this? And it's basically like playing a single-player RPG with one main character, and that's it. You know, it's like they're playing Skyrim, and they're deciding as a group where to take their one character. And so, obviously, none of them really have any character personality of any kind. And so I really had to, like... I really had to just dismiss this notion of, like, not having any individual character identity. And never allowing any person to go off on their own. Fuck. What I meant was, with not wanting to split the party, is, like, usually you want to avoid situations of the big classic blunder that I was very guilty of when I first started is, you fuckface. Basically everyone's like, okay, let's head for, and we're gonna head to the inn and we're gonna spend the night, blah blah blah, and then the rogue player especially is like, hey, I want to get up. I'm not gonna go to bed. I'm not even gonna go to bed. I'm gonna go out on the town. I'm gonna rob people. Fuck, I'm so bad at this. My fingers just flail on the buttons and I don't know what I'm doing. And then the rest of the group, the table has to sit there for the next, like, 20 minutes as the rogue tries to break into people's houses and rob people and stuff. And I did exactly this in my very first D&D character, Mangg the Rogue, did exactly that. And he ended up getting caught and executed. And I made the rest of the group sit there and you know, bear through all that. And I learned, you know, we all learned a good lesson that day. Because my DM did not disabuse me of any sort of notions of going off on my own or anything. But we learned, you know, we learned. And so, I don't know exactly what I said to them when I first told them about splitting up the party like that or anything. The other thing that you generally want to avoid, because it's just not that smart, is in dungeons. Like, you got 2 ways to go in a dungeon, so you split the party. So, you know, each party goes one way. And then your combat potential and your utility is cut in half because you're split up. It doesn't really solve anything, and it just makes it more annoying for both sides to have to wait. So you don't really want to do that. But yeah, sending a scout ahead to, like, scout out a situation because they're more useful in that situation is not what I mean about not splitting the party. So I really had to explain all that to them. So yeah, my sister went ahead on her horse, and she found a lone giant out there roasting a giant boar. She went back to the group, told them, and they weren't quite sure what to make of this lone giant. They were wary. They were very wary, but they used their question for God to see, like, could they, like, befriend him, or like, would he befriend them? And all I said was that he's not evil, you know. But depending on whether or not he'll befriend them is kind of up to them. But he's not evil. Unlike the Manticore. So, and they had gotten a little magic trinket in the past that allowed them to understand and communicate and read and everything, any language for like an hour. So they're like, okay, we can use this and we'll talk to the giant. And we'll see what he wants, and maybe we can, like, recruit him. Maybe we can get him to break the bridge. And so they go there and they start talking to him, and my sister does, you know, my sister's there, she's doing the talking, and she's trying to talk very nicely to him again. Her, you know, her usual tactic. But this time it actually is not a bad idea. And one of the treasures they got in the keep was, like, this giant-sized spiked gauntlet, you know. And so they try and recruit him to, like, their cause, you know. Talking about the Hobgoblin army and all this. And, I have them roll like a will check, charisma check, whatever you want to call it, to see if to see if they're successful, and they are. They recruit him, and he says that he'll go up into the mountains where the rest of his people are, the survivors of his tribe, and he will try and convince them to join their cause against this hobgoblin menace. Fuck. And they were, you know, like, they were a little confused, and they were like, you know, should we, like, they were like, well, we're just gonna wait for him, right? They're like, they thought he was gonna go get his other giants, and they were all gonna storm the bridge, and that was gonna be the end of it. And then they were like, oh, well, wait a minute, we don't have to destroy the bridge now. We can just take the giants and go across to where the army is, and then, you know, we'll win and we'll destroy the army, and that'll be it. They have no idea what's coming. And which is fair. That's kind of the point of the whole module, is that the players, much like all the other residents of the Vale, are just woefully underprepared for the whole hobgoblin army and everything. So, I mean, that's fair. That's to be expected. But yeah, they think that they can just take these giants, of which I don't think there's even that many. There's like, what, a dozen or something? And they can just go across the bridge and wipe out the whole army there and win the day, and that's the end of the campaign. And that is far from the end of the campaign. Like, the bridge scene is the end of part 1 of 5 of the campaign. So they were like, well, we're just gonna wait for the giants, right? And then you know, I kind of had explained that he went up into the mountains nearby, and it's like 40-mile trip into the mountains and then a 40-mile trip back, and blah blah blah, and it'll probably take weeks. And eventually I had to explain to them that, like, okay, out of game, just to cut off some of the chatter, there is 0 chance that the giants are assisting with this bridge debacle. So they get to the bridge, and they see that there's 4 hobgoblin archers on each of the towers on the bridge, and there's a couple hellhounds, and there's a young green dragon guarding the bridge as well, along with, like, other encampments on the other side of the bridge. So there's definitely a force of enemies here, and the bridge itself is quite massive. You know, it's a pretty massive stone ancient bridge, and they're just like, how are we gonna take down the bridge? You know, they weren't even thinking about taking over the bridge, because they wanted to just go across to get to the army. That was like, okay, well, why would we take down the bridge? We can just go over and take care of the army. But now it's like, how are we going to get across the bridge? Because there's all these things here. How are we going to kill a dragon? What are we going to do? Oh, God. And what's a little odd, and I don't know, I probably am going to look for maybe thoughts about this. Because the kind of end of part 1 of the campaign is that they go to the other side of the bridge where the army is mustering and gathering, and they look out and they see thousands of hobgoblins and like multiple dragons and manticores and just like this sea of enemies that is way out of their expectations, and they realize, like, oh fuck, this whole place is pretty fucked. And so they race back to town, warning them of what is coming, and that's supposed to be the end of part 1. But the thing is, like, they're supposed to go to the bridge here to destroy it. So if they destroy the bridge and then don't go check out the army first, they'll never know, and they'll just be like, okay, well, that was good. It's a job done. And I guess we're all fine. Because the people in the town, like the first town they were at, the people in the town think that the army is like 100. And they think that with the adventurers here and stuff, and they prepare and everything, they could probably handle 100 hobgoblins if they're properly prepared. And so it's supposed to be this big shocking wake-up call. It's like, no, man, there's thousands of them. You're fucked. You need to evacuate. And that's supposed to be the lead into the rest of the campaign. But if they don't see the thousands, then it's just like, yeah, I think you're right. We can hold here. It does have things in place in the campaign of like, okay, if the army does show up and they're woefully underprepared and all that, and they realize then that they're fucked, they do have time to actually evacuate and flee, because the town is on the other side of a decently sized river, and so it'll take the army a few hours to get across the river. So the town does have time to evacuate at that point, but it's not ideal. So I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, you know, can they take on, if they just walk out and get into a fight? Can they take on the whole big group? Maybe. I don't know. The dragon obviously is the big outlier. I statted up a young green dragon. It seems fairly menacing, but I don't know. If they focus fire, they can do a lot of damage very quickly, and they're level 3 now. So honestly, I wouldn't be that shocked if they just walk out there and fight everything. But it gets worse actually when they try to plan something and then it goes awry, and then they're in a worse position than if they had just walked out and started a fight. That's usually the bad part. We'll see though. I mean, I think most of them are enjoying the experience and liking the whole plot and everything. And my sister did, of course, get way more, way happier and way more excited when they recruited the giant. And she was talking to the giant, and he was actually, you know, somewhat friendly and stuff. So it's like, okay, I'm glad the module, the campaign could appease you a little bit. But yeah, so that's where that's all at. Yeah, I think, you know, in hindsight, Shadow of the Weird Wizard is just going to be kind of a little too much going on, and the fights that I'm going to have to arrange here to challenge them properly are going to have to be quite large and lengthy. And so in hindsight, I probably would have preferred a different system. I just wasn't sure, you know. I just got in Weird Wizard, and it was very exciting to read and look at for me as like a kind of min-maxer creative person in RPGs. But yeah, they are not maximizing the spell potential of the game. So I don't know. I've been running myself for solo. I've been playing Tales of Argosa, which I think is honestly a really good system. I've been modifying it a little bit to make it more high fantasy than low fantasy. But still, I like a lot of what that system has going for it. So I could see our next campaign, whenever we finish this, going Tales of Argosa with some modified house rules. Although, really, I mean, they probably would prefer low fantasy, because practically none of them like magic or want anything to do with magic. So, I you know, who knows? But, yeah. Alright, well, that filled up another, like, 40 minutes, so that was good. Yeah, alright. So, this week, more Gold Box and Dawn of War 2. And Two Brothers Play, we're going to be doing some more Archipelago with... The plan right now is StarCraft 2 and Elden Ring again, so that should be fun. And then on the Exploring series, Fratricide, both parts as one, followed by Bone Proposal, Part 1. Yeah, should be good. For now, though, my name is Mangg. This has been Hanging with Mangg, and I'll see you fine folks next week.